Welcome back to Awakened Stories, where we take one ancient parable at a time and sit with it until it opens up. Last time we had 3 men in a locked room. 2 of them were calculating how to get out, and 1 was just sitting there. Well, today's story goes somewhere similar, but it arrives from a completely different direction. That one was about wisdom. This one is about something older than wisdom. It's about innocence. It's an explainer of a profoundly disarming Zen parable from Osho's 1001 Tales, and it's easily one of the most remarkable things we've come across in this whole series.
So, the scene opens at a Zen ashram. A black cat named Katzie has just died, and there's this 7-year-old girl who lives there. She goes straight to the ashram's Zen master, Soen-sa, and she asks him point blank, "What happened to Katzie? Where did he go?" It's that raw, unpolished, entirely direct question that children ask with absolutely zero hesitation. You know, the exact kind of question that we, as adults, quickly learn to avoid or dance around with comfortable platitudes. She isn't looking for a theological debate at all. She is just looking directly at the mystery of death.
Now, before we rush in to analyze the philosophy of what happens next, we need to do one thing: let the question sit. As modern learners, we have this intense, almost automatic reflex to immediately seek an explanation, to fill the silence, or to offer some comforting lie when we're faced with grief. But just imagine being the master in that room. Imagine the quiet, heavy weight of that question literally hanging in the air. To really grasp the power of this parable, we have to sit in that uncomfortable silence right along with them.
Now, Soen-sa does something entirely unexpected. He does not give her an explanation about the afterlife. He doesn't offer a gentle consolation about Katzie being in a better place or anything like that, because he recognizes that any purely verbal, intellectual answer would just be a pacifier. Instead, he employs a very specific method to completely bypass the mind. He decides to respond to her raw reality with something equally raw.
He actually starts by looking at her and saying, "When thinking stops, all things are the same. There are no words for it." Which is a pretty massive thing to drop on a 7-year-old, right? But instead of a comforting lie, he introduces this radical concept where words simply fall away. He's gently steering her, and us by extension, away from our human tendency to constantly process life and death through this heavy mental filter. He's pointing to a space where the intellect just cannot go.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact choreography of his teaching. First, the master tests her. He asks, when someone asks, "What is this?" how should you answer? The girl stays perfectly silent. He praises her silence, but then he takes it a step further. He asks, "What is Buddha?" and he dramatically smacks the floor. The girl immediately laughs. She entirely gets the joke and the lesson, and she copies him, hitting the floor herself. In one move, he shifts the focus entirely from mental analysis to pure instinctive physical action.
But here is the amazing part. She doesn't stop there. She takes the master's action and totally runs with it. The master asks her about the biggest concepts imaginable. What is Buddha? Smack goes the floor. What is God? Smack. What is your mother? Smack. She isn't just passively staying silent. She is actively playing with the method. She's immediately answering these huge, heavy metaphysical questions with a single sharp physical strike of her hand against the floor. That's not passivity. That is pure, full-blown engagement.
So, what are we actually looking at here? It brings us right to Osho's central point. The master and the girl are demonstrating something incredibly rare, which begs the question, what actually is true innocence? Because the girl wasn't acting out of ignorance. She was acting out of a state of mind that allowed her to make real, unobstructed contact with the master's teaching.
The crucial takeaway is this: true innocence is not ignorance. It is definitely not naivety. It's the specific quality of an entirely open mind that has not yet decided what everything means. And honestly, right now, I'm catching myself wanting to deeply analyze and intellectualize exactly why this works, which is hilarious and a bit ironic because that's the exact thing this story is gently trying to undo in us. But that's the point. Innocence isn't having a blank, empty head. It is the act of arriving empty, without all your prepackaged assumptions.
We can see a really stark contrast here between 2 ways of existing in the world. Mind-to-mind contact is our default. This is 2 people arriving at a conversation having already decided what everything means. We're practically rehearsing our replies while the other person is still talking, right? Being-to-being contact, however, only happens when one or both people arrive entirely empty, totally open to the moment. That is the raw state required to actually receive a profound teaching, or to truly connect with another human being.
And this brings us to a fascinating reversal in the story's dynamic. The master initiated the lesson, sure, but the unintellectualized action of the young girl completely overtakes it. She takes the profound, heavy wisdom of the Zen master and turns it into a joyful, physical game. She doesn't sit around pondering it, she embodies it. Which naturally leads us to wonder who is actually teaching whom at this point. By taking the master's method and instinctively applying it right back to him, equating God, Buddha, and her own mother to the simple present moment sound of a hand hitting the floor, the young girl forces us to reconsider the entire power dynamic of this parable. She didn't need to study Zen for decades to get it. She just needed her innocence.
She arrived at the exact state of being the master hoped for. And notice, she didn't do it through some detached, passive silence. She achieved it through immediate action, full, playful engagement. There wasn't a single drop of mental commentary or hesitation in her. She didn't pause to figure out if she looked silly. She just acted.
So how does this ancient wisdom of contact without mental commentary actually apply to us today? I mean, think about our modern, everyday lives. We mentally prepare for absolutely every interaction. We script our meetings, we plan our text messages, we curate our responses. We are, frankly, terrified of arriving empty. But this parable suggests that our constant mental preparation is exactly what prevents us from making real contact with reality.
So when does true contact actually happen for us adults? Usually it only occurs when life forces our hand. True contact happens when you are genuinely surprised, when you are caught completely off guard, perhaps by a sudden, painful loss like Katzie's, or maybe just a totally unexpected moment of beauty. It happens when life bypasses your usual mental preparation, and you arrive at an insight before you even have time to form a thought about it. That is when we finally drop our prepared scripts and experience actual being-to-being contact.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself something. When was the last time you came to someone with a real question and stayed quiet long enough to really receive the answer? I want to leave you with that provocative thought to challenge how you approach your life. The next time you face a profound conversation or a difficult moment, see if you can drop the script, arrive empty, come as a child, and just see what happens.